Most of the racism that I've actually experienced since coming to Canada has been from Indians. Unfortunately, that's the reality. I'm so sorry.
Hi guys, welcome back to our channel. In case you're new here, my name is Maren and I'm Maureen. So in today's episode, you're going to be listening to Black people from America, Canada and South Africa as they explain their encounters with Indians and why, to their opinion, they consider Indians some of the most racist people on earth. Right guys, and as we do that, my only question is, where do Indians think they can get off by being racist towards other people? And sometimes you find even it's Indians with this kind of complexion, but that doesn't matter, right? But I feel like it's through these videos, calling them out is where we can make a change. But to be honest, it's a lot of them that are quite ignorant out there who are still not educated, and that is why such things keep on happening. But guys, let's watch what we prepared for you and then we come back and talk about it, because we have a lot to say and we cannot fit it all in an introduction, right? So let's watch and then we come back and talk about it. Please remember to subscribe if you're new to our channel, and also let us know what you think about this episode. Let's watch.
Most of the racism that I've actually experienced since coming to Canada has been from Indians. Unfortunately, that's the reality. I'm so sorry. I know that they are one of the people that the general public, most of the general public in Canada are on right now. But to be very real and unfiltered, Indians and racism towards Black people is insane. There was a day that I had ordered for food, and then the name on the order was an English name, and then the DoorDash got here, met me, and then said, "Oh, is your name this name?" I'm like, "Yeah." "Oh, you don't look like it." And then I swear to God, he called head office to confirm that if there's,
What did you do? Tell me. What did
I
you
reported.
Do? Of course.
I called and reported.
What do you mean?
They refunded my money.
What do you mean you don't?
And they were like, they are going to deal with it.
I'm going to talk about one part of the difference between Indian racism and Black racism. So I go to Carnegie Mellon University, which is a PWAI, predominantly white and Asian institution. So, freshman me 4 years ago, I was looking for the moves with some of my friends. And usually before you find the alphas and the kappas, you're going to end up accidentally at a white frat. So me and my group of friends, walked up the stairs, and there are these two guys gatekeeping the function. And he just looked me up and down, and he said, "No." Just like that, in my face. I felt disrespected. I'm like, "Hey, what you mean, no?" He's like, "Just do a lap, come back, maybe there'll be space for you." As 7 white boys just walked past me and got into the function. Now, I just want to set the scene. This white boy that looked me up and down and said no was wearing a snapback hat backwards, a jersey, and was listening to Kodak Black off the side of his phone. Which makes me think the people who oppress Black people in these types of spaces indulge in so many aspects of Black culture. Here's why it's different with Indian racism on this app and in society. When it comes to racist people, outside of Indian food, every single aspect of their existence and their being and their culture is rejected. And it's usually perpetuated by negative stereotypes. So remember, I told you I go to a PWAI, predominantly white and Asian institution. I was walking from the gym, some Indian guy passed this other white guy, and then he turned around and said, "P.U. onion boy." I was in awe, the audacity. Now, negative stereotypes exist in every group, and there are groups of people who exacerbate those stereotypes. However, I will say, the best smelling person that I've known in my life that has put me on to numerous scents and colognes is an Indian man. And they can't catch a break in that aspect. When people think about India, they're talking about, mud showers and people showering filth and, Indian street food with people dumping their fingers on the inside. And it's like, when you really deep it, it's like we are contributing to their character development. And that's going to lead to a rise in Indian comedians in the next 5 to 10 years, because a lot of the pain that's being inflicted onto them due to them being quote unquote outcasts of society is going to be reflected through a different medium. And this medium is probably going to be through storytelling, right? Through making people laugh. Because when you outcast somebody from society, they have to find redeeming qualities in order to fit back into the society. And usually it's by being funny. That's why I think the Indian Great Shift is going to take longer to come. But once it comes, it will come by force.
Now, I want to talk about this young brother in South Africa. He also made a particular video about Indians being racist.
One day when the country is no longer facing an economic crisis, or one day when the country is free of corruption, when we are ready to talk, when you are ready to sit down and talk about real-time issues that we are facing, we'll be able to sit down and talk about the amount of racism that most Indian people have towards Black people. This might not be a popular opinion, but I know whoever's watching this video knows what I'm talking about. This thing has been going on for the longest time and people are not addressing it. Instead, we sweep it under the carpet. But it's been going on for the longest time. It's been happening for the longest time. How many times have you met one of your brother or sister or auntie or even your neighbor who works for Indians or who works in Makishini? Or my Indians, how many times have you heard them talk about how evil they are, how badly they treat black people, how much they see us as slaves or animals instead of human beings? This thing hasn't been addressed in South Africa for the longest time. People don't want to talk about it. I don't know, maybe it's because of the affiliation that the government has, or the former government, as they said, has with certain Indian businessmen and business people. But we need to start addressing the situation. I'm talking about a lot of things. Even in religion, ask our fellow black brothers who decided to take Islam as their religion. Ask them how the treatment is from their fellow brothers in Islam who are Indians. Ask them about the treatment. Ask them about how much most Indian people would rather pay you through food, last week's food, instead of giving you like money, like as in real money. Ask anybody who works for Indian people how much racist they are. One day we'll be able to sit down and discuss that issue, that dilemma. We'll be able to talk about that disease, the hatred that most Indian brothers and sisters have for fellow black people.
And you would never guess that Indian in South Africa agreed.
I wasn't going to stitch this video because I've made many videos talking about racism in our community. But I've seen a lot of stitches on this video and Indian people saying, well, it's not all Indian people. Yeah, we know that. Black people know that. But it's a lot of us. So they are valid to say Indian people are racist. And can you honestly tell me, how would your family react if they know you're dating a black person? I also saw someone say, well, black people are racist to us too. Two wrongs don't make a right. But I'm also having a hard time believing that you know that many black people. And you're probably just making this assumption from like two black people that were nice to you. So like, well, they're racist to us too. We as Indian people need to acknowledge how we are wrong and apologize and change.
Talk about the amount of racism that most Indian people have towards black people.
You can just hear the desperate confusion in my brother's voice because it makes no sense. Think about it. You've got 54 countries that comprise Africa. Then you've got India, which is a part of this larger scale, historically, culturally, linguistically connected area that we consider South Asia. And factually speaking, there is this observable phenomenon of this anti-black, anti-African sentiment within South Asia and within its diaspora abroad. You don't even have to think that deep to see that. It makes zero fucking sense, bro. Watch this. Both regions have suffered a very similar colonial past under the same colonial powers. Both of us are living a very similar colonial present. Over the course of ancient and modern history, there's been so much cultural and economic trade between us. And not to mention, African civilizations have been harboring and giving space for Indians and other Asians to live on their lands since pre-colonial times. I'm not talking about colonial powers taking indentured laborers over there. We have evidence of like shipwrecks of slave ships and Asians and Indians washing up on African shores and staying there ever since. Make it make sense, right? How can South Asians be so uncultured and not recognize these things? Especially NRIs and other South Asian groups. I don't care how many generations you've been living there, but living there and still holding anti-black, anti-African, this like Indian superiority, African inferiority complex. How dare you? How? And to top it all off, Dravidians, my people, how can we be this way, knowing full well that we are considered in the same category of blackness in our own country? If you've ever been called Galu, Karupu, Koranga, Jungli, Blackie, you know those are the exact same slurs that are used against Africans.
What would you say is a tough experience that you've been through in your life? Would you say you've overcome it?
As being the only black girl in a majority white school, I experienced quite a bit of racism. I've been told my hair is dirty, like black people's hair are dirty because we don't wash it as often, but that's because we can't, so stay educated. My sister's been called a monkey. Time I was on the train going to like my school, you know the announcement, if you see something that doesn't look right, speak to Rama staff or text the British Town Police. Someone goes, yeah, that black girl going to my school. So when people say stuff like this to me, I don't even go like, oh, I hate them, they're so horrible. I'm just like, yeah, they're just uneducated. It's got nothing to do with me. There's no point crying about it. You just have to pick yourself up, know your worth, and just fix the problem. From my experiences, I know I've gone to my school, my head teacher, I've put a meeting in place and I've right, this needs to change. I took those steps because I know who I am. I'm a black person. I'm so proud of that. I'm so proud of my heritage. I'll preach to it to everyone.
Did those girls ever apologize to you then?
They did apologize, but it was because I educated them, not because I said, you can't do that, you're racist. I said, look, about my hair thing, I was like, you know, we don't wash our hairs often because it will damage our curls, right? And now see some of those girls educating themselves. Once you take away the racism and just be curious, I think, me personally, I appreciate that.
I've just come across this shocking viral story from India. So this African student was in his university, he's an international student in India, when he was approached by this individual who proceeded to try and force him to say the Hindu religious chant Ram Ram. Now, as we know, many extremist Hindu Vitas use this against minority Christians, Muslims, and try to force them to say Ram Ram. In this video, he's also in Hindi mocking the international student. This video has gone viral all over India, where people are calling out racism towards international students and religious intolerance, and the use of the chant Ram Ram as a way to intimidate and be racially intolerant to others. The student himself has said that he found the experience very humiliating, and he doesn't feel that it's just discrimination. It is actually racism. Let me know in the comment section below what you think about this story. Is there a problem with racism in India? And also, is there a problem with Hindu extremists and the chant Ram Ram being forced upon non-Hindus?
So guys, welcome back. Let us know what you think about this episode in the comment section. You know, for the case of the first video where that brother in Canada ordered something and then the delivery person happened to be Indian, I feel like even if he complained, they only told him they would handle it as a formality, right? Because I feel like they all share the same beliefs, they all have the same beliefs, right? And if they're looking at things from the same lens, I don't think that that employee doing that would have deterred their employer from sending him anywhere else because of the incident, right? And a famous creator on TikTok, he's called Isam. He once said that most people of color, including Indians, usually treat black people in a bad way because in their eyes, they usually say this thing, at least we are not black, you know. And this is to the question of if they were to choose to be another race, would they ever consider being black? And some of them were saying that at least they're not black, they don't have to deal with some of the things black American communities deal with. And this is why I usually say most of these people, before they open their mouth to insult you or to do anything discriminatory to you, they usually know how it feels and what they're doing, right? And the funny thing is, one of the speakers who happened to be Indian right there just gave it away. He just spoke against his own community, and he said the secret that I feel like other communities know. Even in their own Indian communities, black Indians are treated the same way Africans are treated. The same names that the black Indians could go into Africa and call Africans, or somewhere else in the world and meet a melanated person and call these people out of derogatory terms. In India, they're the ones who are getting those names, and they're getting the African treatment or the black treatment, you know. Right. So the funny thing is that much as people want this to change, much as people want changes to happen in this community, it's very, very difficult when it's part of their culture, they practice it, and them themselves categorize people according to their skin tones or skin color. And the funny thing is that how much they glorify the white skin, and if you're Indian and you have that much lighter complexion, it's even better for you. And that is the saddest part of it all, right? Because there's also another brother who was explaining his experience on campus and how an Indian was discriminating him, based calling him onion breath or something like that. And I'm asking myself, surely, why would you, being an Indian, insult a black person with flavor, yet you're the ones who cook with the most spices that if you pass me on the street, I I smell curry, right? So imagine, guys, it's like a lot of projection is going on in the Indian community, you know, and right now, like, people are making it more and more aware. And for people who go to India, there's a video that went viral last year of a student, also an African student, who was being harassed in the train, and the police was there. I don't know if it's the police train, but it was a police who was working on that train, right? And this police also did nothing. They were harassing this boy like it was just a normal day, you know. So India has a huge problem, and I feel like majority of it has to do with its societal structure. Because you tell me why it's not even a racism thing. Also, when you look at it, it's a sexism thing. Because there's a white lady also, I saw a video of hers on TikTok, who had gone to India. She's a content creator, yeah? And this lady, kids came running following her, and they were throwing trash in front of her, and she happened to be white. And I feel like this altercation came about because the lady told them not to litter. But this is India, it's their way of life. They're used to littering around the streets. So it's like they took offense because she dared correct them, you know. And I'm saying this is lack of respect, because first of all, those were young kids. Kids were like around 10 years old, behaving that way towards a foreigner, you know. And I say, like, they have the worst when it comes to societal responsibilities. They have a lot of work to do, because how they treat women, how they treat people who look different from them, leaves a lot to be desired, you know. Right. And this is why I usually say, you know, I'm struggling to understand this, right? Let me just paint a picture. Both of us were colonized by the same colonizer, as one Indian man said, right? If we were also to become, because I don't understand, we are the darkest in the social hierarchy that they've created for themselves, yet I feel like because of that, black community were the ones who were treated the worst by colonial masters. Yet right now, after the fact, Indians are the ones who are left acting like colonizers, while I do feel like black people, usually for the most part, they usually don't even have a problem with anybody, you know. But it can never escape the mind of a person of color, for example, Indian people, to utter words of abuse, especially such people who discriminate against black people because of their skin color. And I wonder, if we were both colonized and we both suffered the same consequences of colonization, how is it that a black person is able to have more compassion than a person of color like an Indian person, and they all went through the same ordeal? I don't understand. Right, but as I say, this is a problem that will never really be rid of, because it's happening in their own social structures, it's happening in their own communities, it's part of their culture. The only way this can change is if them themselves decide to work on it. But for as long as even them, they thrive on the caste system, I don't think this is something that is gonna be solved. For as long as they're gonna be treating women like they don't matter, they're gonna be treating women like they're not humans, they're gonna be treating women like they're properties, I don't think they're gonna be seeing any other person who is considered different from them as any other thing, you know. The world, I guess, will have to teach them, and the only way, the hardest way they learn is when they get out of India and they try to import such behaviors in other countries, and then they get to meet somebody or the wrong person on that day, you know. Right. And right now I'm really convinced that it's not every Indian, of course, that behaves like this, but I'm really convinced for those people who do not want to mingle with black people, why go in their spaces in the first place? Just segregate yourself and have your peaceful time, because I assure you, even black people are tired of all this nonsense, and people should just mingle with who they want to mingle with. And if you don't want to mingle with anybody, there's no need of abusing them or discriminating upon them. Just pick your lane and stay in it, and stop interfering with other people for simply existing because of their skin colors. Right. But it's quite surprising that some people have held on to their wicked cultures. This is 2025 and some things have to change. But if even in 2025 some things have not changed and some people view things the same way their ancestors did, then there's a lot to be desired and there's a lot of work to be worked on, you know. Right. So guys, let us know what you think about this episode, and then also consider subscribing if you're new to our channel, and we'll see you on our next episode.